The clock struck midnight in Atmore, Alabama, on May 10, 2002. Inside the thick walls of Holman Correctional Facility, a 54-year-old woman named Linda Lyon Block is preparing to make history. In just a few minutes, she will become the first woman executed by the state of Alabama in 45 years. But that's not the only thing that makes tonight special. Linda Block also carried another tragic distinction. She was the last person in the United States to be executed by electric chair without the right to choose. After her death, no one else had to face Yellow Mama, Alabama's infamous electric chair, unless they actively requested it. 9 years earlier, on October 4, 1993, Block shot Police Sergeant Roger Motley in the Walmart parking lot. The officer was just doing his job, checking on the condition of a 9-year-old boy who appeared to be in danger. Instead of cooperation, Motley received bullets. But what makes this story eerily strange is Linda Block's past. Before becoming a police killer, Linda Block was known as someone who helped the vulnerable. She was once an investigator for the Humane Society, rescuing abused animals. She volunteers at the library and participates in political campaigns. People see her as someone who cares about making the world a better place. So how does an animal lover become a cold-blooded killer? How could a woman who spent her life helping helpless creatures shoot a police officer who was trying to save a child? The answer lies in a bizarre organization called Sovereign Citizens. Block and her lover, George Sibley, belong to this group. They believe the U.S. government has no authority over them. They destroyed their driver's licenses, birth certificates, and social security cards. They declared they were no longer American citizens. As Block sat tightly bound to that electric chair, one question remained unanswered. Are you a dangerous extremist deserving of punishment? Is she a woman pushed too far by a system she no longer trusts? The truth might surprise you. Tonight, in the silence of the prison, Linda Block will pay the price for the choices that led her from animal rescuer to the electric chair. And her story will leave unanswered questions about justice, about extreme faith, and about the fragile boundary between principle and madness. Linda Cheryl Lyon was born on February 8, 1948, in Orlando, Florida. Her parents were Francis Frank Lyon and Beryline Owen. From her earliest years, life did not treat Linda kindly. When he was only 10 years old, tragedy struck. Father Frank passed away suddenly from heart failure. Losing her father at such a young age left deep scars on Linda's soul, wounds that would never heal. But her pain didn't stop there. Beryline's mother was not a loving mother. According to Linda, she was both physically and emotionally abused by her mother. The mother and daughter have never been close. Growing up in a home devoid of love or safety shaped Linda into someone who is always seeking something better, a refuge she never had. Perhaps that's why, when she grew up, Linda made a shocking decision. She married Carl Block, an 80-year-old man. Carl is a former Army veteran who lost his son in a car accident. Many people guess that Linda is looking for the image of the father she lost at the age of 10. The marriage didn't last. They divorced in December 1991, leaving behind the pieces that would soon lead to violence. After the divorce, Linda moved to Key West, Florida. This is where people witnessed a completely different side of her. She became famous for helping others, especially animals that couldn't protect themselves. Linda worked as a secretary for the Humane Society and became an animal abuse investigator, tracking down those who harmed innocent creatures. George Sibley, her second husband later on, once said that helping others was part of Linda's very nature. But Linda didn't stop at animals. She threw herself into community work with great intensity. She was the president of the Friends of the Library for 2 years. She even worked as the public relations director for a mayoral candidate. During this time, Linda began to take a deep interest in politics. She published a political magazine called Liberatus, and through this work, she gradually developed strong anti-government views. In 1992, Linda met George Sibley. He shared her growing hatred of the government. They became partners in life and in extreme beliefs. But their anti-government views soon turned violent. In August 1992, Linda and George broke into the apartment of Carl, Linda's ex-husband. They tied him to a chair, gagged him, and threatened him to stop demanding the house back. Then, Linda stabbed the old man in the chest. This attack changes everything. Now, they are fugitive criminals. When the neighbors found Carl and saved him, Carl decided to report it. His decision to seek justice would ultimately lead to the death of a police officer. By October 1993, Linda Block and George Sibley were living like hunted animals. They did not appear at the sentencing hearing in Florida after the Carl Block attack. Now they are fugitives. The couple is camping in their car at the Walmart parking lot in Opelika, Alabama. Also living there is Linda's 9-year-old son, a child forced to live in a car, because his mother and her boyfriend are fugitive criminals. Sergeant Roger Motley is the kind of police officer every community needs. He worked for the Opelika Police Department in Alabama and was always serious about his job. Roger doesn't just receive a monthly salary. He is truly concerned about protecting the people. At home, Roger is a loving husband to Juanita. His colleagues respected him as someone they could rely on in any situation. He's the type of person who's willing to take the shirt off his back to give to you if you need it. On October 4th, 1993, Roger was doing what he always did, caring for others. A concerned citizen called in about a child who appeared to be in trouble. The caller thought the 9-year-old boy might need help. Roger reacted immediately because that's what good police officers do. He had no idea he was walking into a death trap. When Sergeant Motley arrived at the Walmart parking lot, he found Sibley's car parked behind the store. He approached the car and asked George Sibley to present his driver's license. It seemed like a typical request, but George Sibley wasn't your average person. He started explaining the crazy theory that he didn't need a driver's license. Sibley believes the government has no authority over him. He thinks he can drive without following the same rules as everyone else. While Sibley rambled on about his anti-government beliefs, Sergeant Motley began to worry. The situation is tense. Motley moved his hand toward his weapon, perhaps sensing danger. That's when things got bad. George Sibley suddenly pulled out his gun and started shooting at the police officer. Sergeant Motley fired back, hitting Sibley and wounding him. Motley then hid behind the patrol car while bullets flew through the air. While the shootout was happening, Linda Block was at a nearby public phone booth. When she heard the gunshots, she knew her companion was in danger. Instead of running away or trying to de-escalate the situation, Linda made a deadly choice. She drew her gun and ran toward the fighting. Witnesses later said they saw her lower herself into a shooting stance as if she had been combat trained. When Sergeant Motley turned back to face this new threat, Linda Block opened fire. Her bullet hit him in the chest. The police officer gave his bulletproof vest to another colleague that day, a decision that ultimately cost him his life. Motley fell to the ground, seriously injured. Instead of helping the dying police officer or calling an ambulance, Linda and George fled the scene, leaving Sergeant Roger Motley bleeding in the Walmart parking lot. A kind man who was just trying to help a child is now dying because two criminals think they are above the law. After the shooting, police quickly arrested Linda Block and George Sibley. Both were charged with capital murder, the most serious crime in Alabama. But from the moment they were arrested, Block and Sibley refused to cooperate. The court appointed a defense attorney for them, but the couple refused to work with their own attorney. They have their own distorted ideas about how the law works. Block and Sibley claimed that Alabama had no right to try them. They argued that the state government is illegitimate and has no authority over them. Their theory is completely crazy. They say that Alabama was never officially readmitted to the United States after the Civil War ended in 1865. The couple also claimed they shot Sergeant Motley in self-defense, that they were protecting themselves from the government's authoritarian regime. In their minds, a police officer asking for a driver's license is like a government attack on their freedom. The jury was not interested in anti-government theories. Both were convicted of murder and sentenced to death. Crazy beliefs cannot save them from justice. On December 21, 1994, Linda Block entered Alabama's death row. She was assigned prisoner number Z575 and transferred to Julia Tutwiler Prison for Women in Wetumpka, Alabama. The death row for women is different from the men's section. There are fewer female prisoners, but living conditions are just as harsh. Block is held in a maximum security unit, spending most of his time alone in a small cell. For over 7 years, Block lived with the awareness that one day the state would kill her. But even in the face of death, she never abandoned her anti-government beliefs. She continued to declare that Alabama had no right to detain or execute her. The other prisoners, probably that she was crazy. This is a woman who could have spent time reconciling with what she did, but instead, she insisted that the government was fake and she was innocent. As the execution date approaches, most death row inmates will hire the best lawyers they can find. They will file appeals over and over again, trying anything to save lives. But Linda Block is different. She chose to represent herself in the final appeals. This is like performing surgery on yourself. Technically possible, but almost certainly disastrous. Block wrote a 2-page handwritten letter to Alabama Governor Don Siegelman asking for a pardon. In the letter, she requested the governor to appoint a 7-member board to review the case. She declared that she and George Sibley had been unjustly prosecuted. Governor Siegelman read the request and denied it. He found no mitigating circumstances to justify sparing her life. Then, something shocking happened. George Sibley, the man who claimed to love Block, betrayed her. He filed a separate petition with the Alabama Supreme Court, claiming that Block himself, not he, fired the bullet that killed Sergeant Motley. Sibley is trying to save his own life by pushing his companion into the abyss. After years of standing together against the government, he is now ready to let Block die alone. All of Block's appeals were dismissed. The courts have heard enough of her autonomous citizen theories. The execution was scheduled for May 10, 2002. On her last day alive, Linda Block was transferred from Julia Tutwiler Prison to Holman Correctional Facility near Atmore. This is where Alabama carries out executions. 3 close friends visited Block for a few hours on the last day. They spent precious time chatting, perhaps sharing memories of better days. Block also met a spiritual advisor, someone who helped her prepare for what comes after death. The prison offered Block a final meal, but she refused. She doesn't want anything special. Block also declined to make a final statement. Even at the end, she refused to give the system the satisfaction of hearing her speak. At exactly midnight on May 10, 2002, Linda Block was strapped into Alabama's electric chair. The chair, nicknamed Yellow Mama, has claimed many lives over the years, but Block will be its final victim, with no choice in the matter. At exactly 1 minute past 12 a.m., prison officials pulled the switch. The electric current passed through Block's body while she was tied to the wooden chair. Alabama Department of Corrections Commissioner Mike Haley oversaw the execution. Then he said that Block never showed any emotion, not even at the last minute. Her eyes were completely blank, as if she wasn't even there. Juanita, Sergeant Motley's widow, was determined to watch her husband's killer die. But when the officials put hoods over Block's head, Juanita couldn't bear it. She requested an officer to escort her out of the witness room. At 10 past 12 a.m., doctors announced that Linda Block had died. She was electrocuted for exactly 9 minutes. Block became the last person in the United States to be executed by electric chair without the option of choosing lethal injection as an alternative. She is the first woman executed by Alabama since 1957, a gap of 45 years. 3 years later, on August 4, 2005, George Sibley followed his companion into the grave, but by lethal injection. The man who betrayed Block in his final appeal was not allowed to choose his method of death. The execution of Block left a tragic victim, her own son. The 9-year-old boy who once stood in the Walmart parking lot is now a teenager who witnessed his mother become a killer and then be executed by the state. Imagine growing up with that burden. The Opelika Police Department will never forget Sergeant Roger Motley. They honored his sacrifice and remembered him as a hero who died trying to protect a child. Looking back at the life and death of Linda Block, we are left with difficult questions that have no easy answers. Is Block a woman of principle fighting against an authoritarian regime? Is she just a dangerous extremist using politics to justify crimes? The truth probably lies somewhere in the middle, but it's hard to have sympathy for someone who shoots a police officer trying to help a child. The biggest tragedy of the Block story is its self-contradiction. This is a woman who spent many years investigating animal abuse and protecting creatures that cannot protect themselves, who works for a library and helps political campaigns. People see her as someone who cares about making the world a better place. But in the end, the very person who saved helpless lives took the life of the man who was trying to save a child.